Hi everyone, this is the fourth and last video for section 4.1. So in this video, instead of talking about rounding to compatible numbers with multiplication, we're going to talk about it with division. So similar to before, we're going to look at a quotient and we're going to look at rounding the numbers both up, both down, and opposite, one up, one down, and see what happens. So rounding the first number up. We're rounding both numbers up. So we're just trying to find something that's compatible. So the way that you think to round these numbers up may not be the way I think to round these numbers up. So we have a lot of options here. So the first way that I see is doing 3,900 divided by 13. So although we didn't round the 13 up, we rounded the 3,750 up to 3,900, which we know 39 is 3 times 13, so this is 300. Or this, right, so this one, the 13 didn't go up because if we could round the first number up and pretty quickly get to a compatible number, meaning that 39 is compatible to 13, so this worked out nicely. Another way you could have done it by rounding both numbers up is, well, we can see that rounding 13 up would go to 15. So it may be kind of hard to see what's the closest thing that's divisible by 15, right? Because the multiples of 15 are 15, 30, and then all the way up to 45. So this is kind of a lot. So 4,500 divided by 15 should just give us 300 again, actually. So this is the closest compatible number to 15, even though we are increasing 3,750 by 750. Okay, so now we want to round both numbers down. So we, again, can look at this two ways. So if I want to decrease 3,750 by the least amount to get a compatible number, well, I know that 3,600 works pretty well with 12. And you can see, well, that might work. Okay, so if we do 3,600 divided by 12, we also get 300, right? So in this case, we wanted to decrease the dividend, 3,750, by the least amount possible. And then we could see that 3,600 worked well with 12, which was only one less than 13. Or if you want to know, you say, okay, I don't like working with numbers that aren't multiples of 5s. That's hard for me to do in my head. You could go ahead and increase this down to 10. And 3,750, well, you could see that what's the closest thing? Well, you can see that 3,500 works well with 10. Any number with a 0 on the end, it's going to work well with 10. And this is 350. Or you can go all the way down to 3,000 divided by 10 is 300, right? There's a lot of different ways, as long as you can find compatible numbers that aren't too far off that help give you something you can do in your head. And you can see that doing it all of these different ways, we get a lot of repeat answers, right? We have a lot of these. A lot of these have 300, right, as our answer. Okay, so now let's try rounding one number up and one number down. So let's try first rounding down the 13 to 10. So if we round down 13 down to 10, then we need to round 3,750 up. So again, anything will work. You can go all the way up. Not anything will work, my apologies. A lot of different things will work. We can go all the way up to 4,000, and this gives us 400, or we can just go up to 3,800 divided by 10 is 380, right? So that's one way to do it, where we round the 13 down to 10. Now, instead, let's say we want to round the 13 up to 50. So if we want to round 3,750 down to something that works well with 15, well, the closest thing that works well with 15 is 3,000. So 3,000 divided by 15 is 200. Okay, So you can kind of notice this pattern here where rounding one up and one down gave us a range between 200 and 400, but rounding them similarly gave us 300 in a lot of cases. And so now let's see what happens. So if we actually divide this, we get 288 with a remainder of 6. So 288 we can see is actually closer to this 300, right? It's even though we got 200, 288 is definitely closer to 300. So it seems like rounding both of the numbers in the same way will give us a more accurate answer. And you can see this by analyzing fractions. So let's look at what happens if we round the dividend down. So let's look at these fractions. So if we're looking at 3750 over 13, and we want to round the dividend down to say 3600 over 13. Well, rounding this numerator down decreases the quotient. So rounding 3750 down decreases the quotient. Okay, but what happens if we round the 3750 down and we round the 13 down? So let's compare 3750 over 13, 3750 over 12. Well, when you divide by more, you actually get less. So if we round the divisor down, so rounding 13 down actually increases the quotient. Okay, so you can see that rounding both of them down will increase and decrease the quotient. So doing both of these in the same direction, right, either rounding both down or both up, will increase and decrease the quotient by a little bit. So doing them in this way shouldn't change it all that much. Rounding the same way will increase and decrease, so it should turn out to be around this, a close value. It should turn out to be a value that's close to what we want it to be. Okay, so this is how we find compatible numbers in division. So that is all for section 4.1, mental math and estimation. And so we'll come back for 4.2. So that's all for this video.